So figure out what that is, and then tell everybody. I want you to each find 5 friends. It's not one mentor. I don't want you to have one mentor. One mentor is not going to make you successful. You need to have 5. You need to have 10. Every relationship with everybody that you respect becomes a mentor relationship. Do you know what I'm saying? Everybody you respect. You can have peers that are mentors. I have people who are younger than me now who are mentors. When Jack Welch, when the internet came along, his mentor was 25 years old relative to the internet. You know, we find somebody who has something we want to learn from, and they're our mentor. Now, by the way, I don't believe you reach out to somebody cold and say, I want you to be my mentor. It's kind of creepy. You know, it's sort of like, you know, asking somebody in the bar that you just met if they'd marry you, you know. Mentorship is something each of you earn. And it's something that you should wake up one day and everybody knows that that's what this is. Because the intimacy is there and the relationship is there. Now, I understand that you guys have this, you know, construct where you've been handed or identified a mentor, and that's great. But in general, don't just reach out to somebody and say, I want you to be my mentor. It can actually freak some people out. Because they're like, I don't know if I have time or whatever. Forget it. Just start acting as if. And then over time, if the relationship works, then you'll look back and say, that was my greatest mentor. Define is defining your currency. Defining what you have to offer others. Because if you've targeted the people that you want to meet in your life, so the focus tells you where you want to go, then what you need to do is you need to identify the kind of people that you need to meet in order to achieve that. You write those names down. I want each of you this week to write your strategic plans, at least where you want to be in 10 years. And I want each of you to identify 50 people. It sounds like a lot, but it won't be once you start thinking about it with all your goals. I want you to identify 50 people that you need to develop deeper relationships with in order to achieve your goals. Your moms and parents will be on there, your siblings and significant others, your coaches, your parents, your mentors, your teachers, your friends, your whatever. All of those 50 will be a part of the 50, and those 50 will change every 6 months. You'll add more. You'll get to the stage where you're my age, you've got 1,000 people on your list, and you're actively outreaching. You're actively asking yourself over the next 18 months, how am I going to build better relationships with those individuals? Once a year, I'm going to have a big party. I'm going to invite a bunch of them to lunch with me sometime. I'm going to do a quick email with everybody on my list. Look, hopefully, if nothing else, this talk might have spurred you to want to, yes?
Ask one question. You're in an interview, you always say, what's your one weakness? And you sort of, well, I always say, like, oh, I work too hard, Goldman Sachs, you know. What do you actually, like, say? Would you lay forward your vulnerability, or is that too risky?
It's a great question. And what I would suggest is 2 things. Number one, let me take a step back. Your most important objective in any interview that you have is to make sure the person across the desk likes you. Because I guarantee you, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a business degree, and a 4.0, and a great resume, and all that kind of garbage is a commodity in this world today. It's whether or not you can create some instant intimacy with somebody, like I did with Greg Seal. And you might not, depending upon how that person, how your instinct is with that person, you might only get partial way up the intimacy pyramid. You might only become walking in there being genuine. You might get to the stage where you're passionate and excited, getting to the stage where you're sharing your dreams and your aspirations. You might stop there. You might be able to go up to the level of being able to talk about your past struggles and what are some of the things you've overcome. The fact that, you know, I never did it in an early interview, but I guarantee you I could have talked to somebody about what it was like to grow up as a poor kid in a rich school. And sometimes what that does for me is it makes me feel a little bit less than. And the way I deal with that is I'm an overachiever as a result, but it doesn't necessarily make me feel good about myself. I could probably get away with doing something like that in an interview, depending upon the person I'm talking to, but it's to your instinct. I probably wouldn't necessarily say, but at the end of the day, I'm really afraid that I'm going to die alone without a lover. You know, that is probably not the kind of thing you do. I mean, you go as far as what feels comfortable, okay? Listen, let me wrap up real quick with a quick story. When I was about 8 years old, my dad and I were driving down the road, and this was November. Christmas was upon us, and we had been unemployed for 6 months. It was going to be a tough Christmas. One of the things on my Christmas card list was a big wheel, this 3-wheel, kind of plastic thing. I don't know if anybody's ever had one of those or seen them. And Dad saw one in someone's trash along the side of the road. Now, what do you think it was like for a 55-year-old steelworker? Dad had me when he was 45. What do you think it was like for a 55-year-old steelworker to drive his car, pull his car off to the side of the road, and get out of the car to pick up a Christmas present for his son in someone's trash with his son in the car? I mean, imagine the fears, the insecurities, the anxieties that must have been going through his head. And it probably wasn't helped by the fact that his son was embarrassed and hiding in the backseat of the car for fear that, one of his snooty friends from school would go by. Or that could have been the house of one of my snooty friends. We didn't know. But Dad actually walked up the sidewalk to knock on the door to ask whether or not he could actually have that thing as opposed to just taking it. I'm sure he wanted to show me, a man of integrity, and you ask for these kind of things. It was interesting. You'd think that the lesson that I learned from all of this is the lesson of audacity. And when I tell it in the book, and I hope you do read the book, because there's a lot of hints and tips about how you can bring this stuff into your life that's in the book that I haven't even begun to touch on, that I think would be very helpful to you. And it's a fun read. It's a lot of storytelling and that kind of stuff. But you'd think it was audacity that I learned from him. The willingness to step out and ask. Dad used to always say to me, never be afraid to ask. The worst anybody could ever say is no. And I want you to think about that. I want you to internalize it and use it. The worst anybody could ever say is no. Don't ever be afraid to ask. When somebody says to me, oh, I can't ask for that, and I'm like, well, I guarantee you, you will not get it if you don't ask. If I didn't say to Pat LeConto, how about 2 dinners a year? I'd probably be a very successful insurance salesman here or something. I don't know what I'd be, but I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today. Never be afraid to ask. The worst anybody could ever say is no. But that's not what the biggest lesson is that I learned that day. What I learned that day was from the woman who came to the door. The woman who came to the door who was so excited to be able to offer us that big wheel. She was like, well, of course you can have the big wheel. Not only can you have the big wheel, but, they didn't have eBay back then. We've got other stuff. My grandkids have moved away, and we've got some bikes that we didn't have the heart to throw. You think your son would like a bike? And then she thought for a moment, she's like, we've got a go-kart. You think your son would like a go-kart? The best damn Christmas, no question. Listen, what I learned that day was from that woman. Because imagine how she felt on Christmas Eve. The biggest gift that was given, I think, in that whole exchange was not to the family who had now had all these Christmas presents, but to a woman who was given the opportunity to help a family succeed and to alleviate our pain. How warm she would have felt, how wonderful she felt. Your mentors want to feel that way by helping you. You can give them the gift by reaching out and asking them to help you be successful. There are peers of yours who, once you develop a level of intimacy with them, would love to see you succeed. There are people that walk around you today and don't know you and you don't know them, would love to see you successful and would love to have the joy and the gift of helping you get there. I want you to create an environment around yourself where you walk through this world and you're inviting the relationships in that will make you and them mutually successful. You'll have more joy, you'll have more success, and I think the world will be a better place. God bless you all. Have a great day.